this is Dean with the Two Party Podcast. I'm here with Sandra Rodriguez, and she is going to, I'm going to hand it over to her, let her kind of explain who she is, where she comes from, her career background, and some of the things that she'd like to talk about today. So Sandra, go ahead. Or Sandy, I'm sorry.
Well, you can call me Sandra or you can call me Sandy. Both are fine. So, Dean, thank you so much for having me on your show. I've been listening to it. I love it. It's a wonderful show that you have. And I would like to tell your listeners about something that I recently wrote. I wrote a book titled Choose to Prevail that for you, Dean, that you can see me on the screen. This is the book.
Excellent.
Okay. Yes, this was a book that I wrote because I have a lot of friends, different ages, from different backgrounds. And bizarrely, I was in a situation where everybody was coming to me kind of like at the same time saying, you know, Sandy, I've been feeling very depressed, or I've been feeling very stressed, or my life didn't pan out the way that I hoped that it would, or just a lot of situations that were, you know, I was feeling kind of surprised because again, it was like everybody was having some kind of an issue at the same time. So I thought, well, maybe what I can do is not just suggest things that have worked for me, but I can also write a book for them that will be helpful. So that's how Choose to Prevail came to be. This is a book, Dean, that I would describe as a self-help book for people who do not like self-help books, or tend to buy them, or tend to read them, or are in any way interested in that category of books. Here's the thing. I feel sometimes like I've lived a number of different lifetimes, in that I have lived in different places. I have lived in Puerto Rico, Philadelphia, Mexico City, Seoul in South Korea. And now I live in Los Angeles. I've been living here for a while now, a few years. And I can relate to, for instance, being an outsider, certainly, because when you move to a new place, sometimes you're not quite, you're still kind of like a fish out of water and things. So I've learned a few tips and techniques to feel more comfortable in your own skin and in different situations, no matter what they may be. I've also faced a number of personal tragedies. In the sense that I had to face the death of my father, my younger brother, one of my best female friends, even my hair and makeup artist, all of them over a short span of years. And of course, maybe things that are not as, let's say, tragic or traumatic, but certainly little things that we all have to deal with. For instance, I had difficulty in speaking in public at a certain point in my life, and I was able to overcome that as well. I had a fear of driving on certain types of roads, and I also overcame that. So it's not to say that I'm a guru and I know everything and I have the secret to life. No, but I've personally overcome a number of things. So friends tend to gravitate toward me and ask me about how I did certain things. And I thought I would put all of that in book form, not in a super prescriptive way, not saying, hey, you need to do this or you need to do that, or you need to be always super positive. No, just letting people know things that I have done that have worked for me, things that have not, and using them as a starting point to develop a larger or more universal narrative as to what people can do to improve whatever their situation is when they're struggling with something, be it as minor as being stuck in traffic or as major as the loss of a loved one. So that's what happened, Dean.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it's good that I've got you on today, and it's actually really encouraging because the past week I've been doing a lot of live videos. I've been doing a lot of on social media as well as just different platforms, and as well as on the podcast. But what I've really been trying to focus on this month in general for the next 30 days is really focusing on not just the self-help, but the way we can do self-help by helping other people. And obviously with what you just discussed and about your book, that alone is helping other people. So you're actually taking the initiative in your life and in your career to help other people. And that's what we're really in the past month, the next 30 days, really, I'm really focusing on that. because there's a lot of people with the pandemic. There's a lot of things going on in the world where there's people that are depressed. They have high anxiety. Some people just, whether it's medically, they need to be medicated or don't need to be medicated. They're just stuck in a spot where they're so depressed and can't get past a certain point in their life, or they just feel they're in a bubble with no help and don't have the words to maybe verbalize or ask that they need help. And it's funny you mentioned too about a lot of people maybe not looking for self-help. There's so much and so many people that offer and have the books and the online classes for self-help that, a lot of people can be overwhelmed with where to get the help.
I have to agree, Dean. And let me tell you, I want to, well, brag a little. Here's the thing. I got a very exciting review recently, exciting for me, in that it was a 5-star review from this Australian author who has undergone just so many things. She is deaf. She's legally blind. She suffers from PTSD. She is a domestic violence survivor. Like a lot of things. She lost a child. So a lot of things are going. I mean, she's undergone a lot of challenges. And what she wrote in her review is that she approached my book with a healthy dose of skepticism. I mean, of course, I mean, her life has been quite challenging, and she says that she has spoken with numerous experts, and that, to be honest, she had not found anything that actually helped. But then she came to my book. At first she was like, let's see what's going on here. And eventually, it seems that the writing won her over, and she said that she did indeed feel a sincere sense of relief, a sincere, let's say, uptick in her overall sense of well-being. And now she's recommending the book to everyone 15 years and older. I was really surprised. I've never met her. I would love to. Her review has been shared on a website called Reader's Favorite, and it's also available on Goodreads. So that was really exciting for me.
That sounds really good. I look forward to getting my hands on the book as well. I try to we get a lot of guests on that are promoting books, and I try to get as many as I can because I enjoy reading. And I particularly love reading self-help. And, I'm really big. My past history, my childhood was not very good. I've been through a lot of things in my life as well. And so I suffer with a little bit of depression. I suffer with a little bit of anxiety. I've come a long way over the years. I suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome. But I've come a long way, and I've learned different ways to cope. And I've been through a lot of counseling where a lot of people haven't, and they maybe haven't got the courage to step up and speak with someone else about issues. So I feel like maybe I'm in a better place coping, but I feel like when my guests bring something and present, to promote a book, I feel like it's always an opportunity for me to grow by learning what's in their book. And while there is so many out there, it does take, like your example you just said, it takes one book to reach one person. And your book happened to reach her. And that's a prime example why it is good to be open-minded and check out everything you can with different people's aspects. Because while your journey may be your own, your journey can help maybe one person. And obviously it was that woman. And that's an amazing story.
Yes, I was really happy. Now, the thing is that I tried to make this book accessible to all. Firstly, it's a slim book. It's about 100 pages long. And in fact, one of my favorite authors, who is Eric Weiner, he is the author of a book that's recently out called The Socrates Express. He was kind enough to give me a blurb for the book. And he mentions that it packs a lot of wisdom. It's a short book, but it packs a lot of wisdom, and he believes that it's like having a cup of coffee with a wise, kind, patient friend. I don't know. I mean, he's super polite in saying that, but that's what many of my friends have said, that it feels like we're sitting down and having a conversation. And people that have never met me, in their reviews, they mention that they feel like they are actually talking to an actual friend, like sitting across a table from a friend that's listening, that's not, scolding them or nagging them, but just giving them a little bit more perspective on what's going on. Now, the other thing, Dean, is that it's a book that you can read over the course of an afternoon. It won't take you any longer than that. And it can be a wonderful starting point for just reflection, or maybe taking other forms of action. But I think it's a book that can be useful whether you're, dealing with major challenges like PTSD that you were mentioning, or even something smaller. There are chapters devoted to uh, your physical appearance, to your surroundings inside your home. So there are things that you can do, simple things, not only major mind shifts, little things that you can do that can improve your outlook dramatically, dramatically. It's just very interesting. And these are things that I've tested myself successfully. I also mentioned things that I have tested unsuccessfully.
Right.
So yeah, so that people can get a feel for that. And I also um, mention, opinions that great thinkers have had over time. I mentioned Socrates. I mention, well, even Mike Tyson. He has some insight to share as well.
Yes.
So yeah, it's quite interesting. I'm happy with the way the book came out, and I'm very happy that people are saying that they can relate to the book, that it's resonating. I'm just really happy about that, Dean.
That's awesome. And the good thing is, you mentioned about it being, somebody mentioning that it's just like a discussion with somebody. And just like we do on this show, we're trying to engage and build relationships. So every guest I have on, we're trying to build a repertoire. We're trying to become friends with our guests as well as be friends with our audience. And the best way to do that is, we do this show unfiltered. We do this show where I'm not asking written down scripted questions. We want to have a discussion so we personally can characterize and know the guests. And that's what we have here. And the fact that you're saying that that's what your book is like, I think that'll really resonate with the audience, because that's what my audience expects. They know that this is mostly unedited. They know that basically everything I do here is unfiltered, and they're getting to know the person that we're speaking with. And so I think reading a book like that is, even for me especially, because I love people and I love to engage in conversation, I think that's going to make the book even more interesting for me.
I hope so. I will be honored to have you read a copy, which
I
is
will, and I will give a review when I'm done.
that would be fantastic. But like for instance, right now you're mentioning that part of the appeal of your own show is that it's unscripted, it's spontaneous. We're just riffing off each other. And that's a fantastic thing to be able to do. And not everybody can do it. Among other reasons, because a lot of people are just tremendously shy when put on the spot. They
Mm-hmm.
public. It's something, there's some kind of barrier, phobia, or situation that's keeping them from expressing themselves fully. That used to happen to me, Dean. When I was younger, I was maybe in class and I couldn't even, raise my hand to answer a question because I would blush and spit and stammer and, nearly pass out.
Yeah.
And um, I did a couple of things that totally changed that around. It was like a complete 180, and I talk about that in the book as well, because maybe this experience will be helpful for others in similar situations.
Yeah, and I would hope so. So, obviously I always encourage all my audience to check out books of all our guests, but tell me a little more about, like, what do you, career-wise, what do you do besides the book writing and stuff? What is it that has brought you to the point where you are now, where you're able to offer this advice? I mean, what are some of your past experiences that were most impactful to you?
Of course. Well, I think for the longest of time seen, maybe about a decade and a half, I was an editorial coordinator for one of the foremost newspapers in Latin America. I did that for a very long time. And to me, this was fascinating. I was very passionate about that career line. I was doing very well. And when I was at the height of my career, I had like a number of personal situations that made me decide to walk away from that career and move to Los Angeles, which was very reasonable from a personal standpoint, but not wise at all from a professional standpoint. The reasons I had for the move were many. One was that I needed to spend more time with my son. I could not keep sourcing his care out to nannies or
Mm-hmm.
reliable family members. That was one of them. The other thing was that, not to speak poorly of Mexico City, because it's a beautiful city and one of the best in the world, but while I was living there, I was a victim of crime a couple of times. And I did have a couple of safety concerns. Not to say that that is the norm, but that was my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there were a couple of other things around that line. Also, that I needed some more time for myself, for like when you're a journalist, and I'm sure you and several of your
Yep.
listeners can relate, your days are long. They're long.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be strange to be working at the very least a 16-hour day. That would be the norm most of the time. So I think that I missed out in a sense on a number of experiences that other people normally live. For instance, I'm thinking getting married or, spending more time with family members or socializing a little more. I was not able to do any of that because I was at work. I was at my desk.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that that was a bad thing because, again, I was very passionate about that, but I did want to live a more well-rounded experience. So that was another thing. And it had been many years, right? So I walked away from a career that was indeed very fulfilling, but I needed something a little bit different at that time. And I moved to LA. And here's the thing. When I moved here, I was indeed invited to take part in a number of projects that were very interesting, very creative. But most of these projects were not, let's say, they were not a source of steady income. And I did need that because I had just moved here.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking for something to do. In the meantime, while I was finding something that would be more permanent, I translated dozens of books, probably more than 30, from English to Spanish for major publishing houses. So I ended up translating books by Louise Hay or um, just a number of very well-known self-help authors, also medical textbooks, medical books, novels, business books, some with a foreword by a major American a president, just a bunch of things that I was doing in the meantime. But I really did need something that was more permanent, and eventually it just fell into my lap exactly at the time that I needed it, and I found an entirely new career that I ended up liking just as much, if not better, than journalism, which is court interpreting, which is something very specific that I had never even given thought to, or never even known that it existed even. So I was able to make a very seamless transition into something that I really liked. And then I was able to also kind of combine my passions because people kept, seeking me out for editing their magazines or their projects or writing for different media outlets. So now I do both things. I still write, I still edit. Um, I also work full time as a court interpreter, which is something super new. And then additionally, other interesting things came along. I became a video host for two separate companies, one in Mexico and one in the US. So I also interview people on screen. And I also had, despite all of that, Dean, despite the fact that I was and I am doing all of these things at the same time, I still have a little bit of spare time, which was definitely not the case in my old life as an editorial coordinator. So I've even gotten into like super interesting hobbies. Like for instance, I've become an amateur winemaker. So I make wine. That's
Very
some,
cool.
and it's super fun. And there's just such an interesting winemaking community here in California. So
Mm-hmm.
that's great. I also started painting. So I'm starting out a career as an artist. I've sold a couple paintings already, so that's exciting as
That's
well. So
awesome.
yeah, thank you. So I think it's interesting because a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm kind of stuck in a situation that has its pros and cons, but the pros outweigh the cons, so I don't want to make any kind of change. Or, sometimes people feel stuck in some kind of a routine situation and they're just afraid to make a change. Maybe they're feeling that it's too risky or that they're too old or whatever the case may
Mm-hmm.
be. And I feel honestly, Dean, that I was able to beat all kinds of odds. And I mean, I'm living proof that you can make any change at any point, at any stage, and things work themselves out, or they can. They can
Yeah.
if things align. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. And, I've had this talk with a couple guests that I was interviewing earlier, and, life is short. I have done so many things in my life, in my career, everything from fire ranger, fire and safety, computer engineering. I've owned computer businesses. I've owned landscape businesses. I now own a construction company. I do podcast talk show. I have all my journalist credentials. I do so many different things. Not so much for the means to have the financial backing, but I do them because life is short, and I want to have knowledge in everything. Maybe not ever master one thing, but have enough knowledge in everything to say I tried it, I gave it my all. And if it's for me or I'm passionate about it, I always stick with it. If it's something I'm really not that passionate about, I know I've at least given it a try. And that's how I kind of feel, because life is just so short. And I'm at a point in my life now where I try to give back with my experience. I try to give my experience to others. I try to share. If I see a friend who's starting a new business, who's never been in business before, I always offer free advice. I always try to help lift them up and get them over the hurdles I went through. And that's just in everyday life. I mean, a matter of just holding doors for somebody, giving a compliment, giving a smile to somebody who maybe is going through something I don't even know. It's just, that's the impact I like to think that I'm trying to have and practicing having, so that one day, each day I kind of look at my life and I say to myself, what legacy am I leaving behind? And a lot of people see that as what the big picture is. What legacy are you leaving for your kids or for your wife or for your husband? For me, it's what legacy am I leaving in the moment? So what legacy am I having in this interview? What legacy am I leaving behind, or what impact am I having in every moment of my life? So I like to live in the moment, but at the same time, I like to be able to offer and help others while still being able to learn myself. And what I found, even through all my careers and all the talents that I've picked up and tried, what I enjoy the most nowadays at 44 years old is honestly being able to help someone else and watch their progression and watch them learn something maybe they didn't know. And whether it's me having an opportunity to do it or me being able to watch them learn it themselves and grow through my advice, that I get great gratification from that.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting that you should mention that you yourself have lived like a number of lives, a number of different activities
Mm-hmm.
carried out. Don't you think that momentum kind of builds up? Maybe the first time you made a career shift or a major change in your life, you saw, hey, it worked out just fine. It was a very good idea. So that gives you like the courage or the encouragement to do more stuff in your life, more changes,
Mm-hmm.
more things, maybe add on a new hobby, add on a new activity. I think that it really does build upon itself when things start going well or things start getting interesting. You want more interesting things to happen, and you're more open to doing newer things. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree 100%, for sure. I find definitely that when something interests me, not only do I dive in it and I want to learn everything about it, but then it also just re-energizes me. It reinvigorates me, even in what I'm doing at the moment, and in the new situation. It just gives me such new energy to try other things, to try different things. I like to, some of my career base has been like, I call it the 7-year itch. And it's kind of like literally every 7 years I get bored with what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, it's time for me to transition into something different. And while I've done construction 27 years of my life, it's been on and off. Every about 6-7 years, I get tired of construction and I'll jump into using my engineer's degree, or I'll jump into using one of my other degrees. And it's just one of those where I'm one of those people, I can't just do one thing forever. I really had to have my hands in a lot of different things. Because it keeps it interesting. It makes life interesting. Most importantly, it helps me build relationships with people like you and other people around the world that I may never have an opportunity to meet on the 9-to-5 schedule.
Exactly. And it's interesting because when when you have that mindset, when you have the attitude that you have, Dean, what happens is that you are not as prone to overthinking situations that might make you feel bad. Like a lot of people struggle with depression or struggle with existential angst, or it's just like, what is the meaning of my life? I mean, certainly these are things that are on everybody's mind at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're keeping busy, when you're doing interesting things, when you're moving forward, that becomes less of a concern, definitely. I
Yep.
think people are, staying awake at night, staying up all night thinking, where's my life going, tend to be people that don't believe change or progress is possible. When you see that it is, certain things scare you less, is what I feel. So
Mm-hmm.
it's important to um, to see for yourself that changes can be carried out whenever you want. You can become a different kind of person whenever you feel like it. If something is not working, it's always possible to change things at any point. If you start feeling that 7-year itch that you were mentioning, nothing is forcing you to stay stuck in that. I mean, you're more than
Mm-hmm.
make changes, and it's great, I'm sure, for your friends to see you speak, because just your mindset and your attitude uh, are very encouraging. Even if you're not telling people, hey, you need to do the same thing. Let's say that maybe I were on the fence right now about moving from, I don't know, a certain career path to another one. Maybe it's not even that I'm asking you for advice, but if you were just describing your experiences, I might think, so he did it. He looks happy. Oh, so it's kind of like a light bulb moment, and it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Right? It's good. It's not that you're out there preaching something. It's just that
Right.
people on your energy.
Definitely, definitely. Is there any other things you do that maybe you could tell the audience about? I noted I always I call it stalking my guests. So I was stalking your profile and some of the other things, and I know you're into fashion and beauty and a few other things. What are some other things you'd like to highlight to tell our audience about you?
Well, here's the thing. I think I like everything, Dean, because yes, when I was working for the newspaper, I was originally hired as a fashion and food editor. Shortly after that, I became, I don't know if you saw the movie Spotlight. It's a movie about uncovering scandals in the church. I mean, well, basically, that movie shows a journalistic team that is devoted to in-depth analysis or research for more, articles that require a lot more time. I
Mm-hmm.
became a department that focused on that. That's what I did
Okay.
after. Then I also was in charge of an entertainment magazine, which was part of why I was coming to LA frequently for press junkets or for movie premieres. Then I was also in charge of what we called supplements, which were mini magazines on a number of topics. There were probably around 50 of these supplements, from ranging in topics from architecture to female entrepreneurs to senior citizens to pest control even. So a little bit of everything. I really enjoy learning about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And which is why I also tend to say yes to any writing project, regardless of what it is. Sometimes I write about finance, sometimes I write about fashion, sometimes I write about celebrities, sometimes I write about health issues. It really, I mean, I don't necessarily have a preference for one topic over the other, because I'm just interested in so many things.
Yeah, and I think that again, that's kind of the dynamic of the Two Party Podcast show is that's kind of where I'm at is they always tell you when you start a talk show or you start one of these podcasts that you should pick a topic or a subject and make that be the framework of your show. And that's just not me. I'm interested in everything, and I'm interested in everybody, and I want to hear everyone's story. And hearing everybody's story, I can't isolate from one topic. I have to literally know your story, and I need to know somebody else across the world's story. And that's to me as a journalist, that's kind of what I enjoy doing is it's the surprise also of you meet someone, they tell your story, and there's always a surprise of something you may not have known about them, or something that they can tell you that maybe you didn't even know. And that's part of why, again, that's what the Two Party Podcast is all about, is different topics, different subjects, different guests. We can talk news, we can talk politics, we can talk fashion and beauty, we can talk books, there's so many things I want to talk about and hear about. And that's why I made this platform to be what it is. I really want to invite everybody just to join in and enjoy the conversation and build that relationship. Where are some other places where we can, some of the audience can find you, websites, other media outlets that we can find you on?
Of course, if somebody cares to follow me or my book journey specifically on Instagram, that would be at Choose to Prevail. That would be the Instagram handle. If somebody wants to join our Choose to Prevail Facebook group, that's also available. That's the name of the group, and you will be more than welcome to join. If somebody wants to buy the book, right now it's available on all major platforms. It's on Amazon, it's on Barnes and Noble, it's on Walmart.com, it's mentioned on Goodreads, it's everywhere. Uh,
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm really happy.
I go to Barnes and Noble a lot. My wife reads a lot. My son reads a lot, and I read a lot. So we like to go. We don't like to order online because we like to like go in the place and actually play with the books, read some of the books. So we go to Barnes and Noble. That's probably where I'm going to end up going and buying it myself.
That's wonderful. So here's the thing. Right now, the only place people can buy signed copies, if what they want is a signed copy, that would be through a website called heartofhollywoodmagazine.com. Now, if people want a regular copy, that's available on all major platforms. Right now, on major platforms, they have the ebook version, and the print version will be out in a week or so.
Okay.
So you can either right now, like right now, you can get the ebook version, or go to heartofhollywoodmagazine.com for a signed paperback, or just wait a couple of weeks and get your paperback at any platform you prefer. And you know, I really liked what you said right now about conversations with people and discovering things about people that you wouldn't assume. That is actually a fabulous conversation starter. That would be a little tip for the audience when meeting new people, or when making small talk, or even when, you know, interacting with old friends or during dates or whatever the case may be. That is a question that really invites fantastic conversation. Tell me something about you that very few people know. And that is always a great way to start a conversation or deepen a relationship, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, sometimes there's those people out there that they might tell you something and you may not have wanted to know it. But then they may tell you something where it's like it's very impactful in your life. And those are the memories we want to set, and those are the friendships we want to make with people. And sometimes, like I said, there may be something you just didn't really need to hear it, the too much information, but that is part of that person's story, and that's part of their life, which is another reason why on this show we kind of leave it unfiltered, where if someone wants to come on here and tell us something that's outrageous and over the top, it's okay, because that's who they are, and we want to know them for who they are.
Exactly.
Yeah, Sandy, it's been great having you on here. And as I was mentioning to some of the guests earlier today that we were talking to, this is a small slot. This is just a 30-minute slot that we kind of fill to kind of give you guys the intro, give you guys the floor to our audience, and give you the center stage. So our audience gets to know you in this short time slot. But what I'd like to do is invite you back in the future for maybe a 45-minute, maybe an hour time slot, where we can dig deeper and have deeper conversation about you and about your career, your books, things you've done, to ask those questions about things we don't know about you that you may want to share. So I would invite you back later at another time.
I would love that. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
For sure. And one more time, tell us again the website, and tell us the name of the book, please.
Of course. The name of the book is Choose to Prevail. And you can read all about it on a website called heartofhollywoodmagazine.com. There you will find reviews, you will find signed copies of the book, you will even find promotional t-shirts, like all kinds of merch. And you can also find the book on major retailers such as Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And if you would like to follow on social, we're on Instagram as @ChooseToPrevail. Or there is also a Facebook group titled simply Choose to Prevail. You're more than welcome to join. It's quite interactive. We have not a huge viral amount of people on it right now, but it's a healthy amount. So it's nice. We engage, and it's really nice.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate you taking time out of your day to do it and be here. And again, I do invite you back at another time. I can send you another link that'll give you a better time slot. And then we'll have you back in the future, give us some updates on where you're at and what's going on. And I encourage you to come back and see us.
Sounds fantastic, Dean. Thank you so much.
You have a great day.
You as well.